Okie dokie. Hello and happy Wednesday. Oompa. I hope you're having a good week. We are almost to Christmas break. Um, I hope work is going well. If you're having any questions or confusions, please reach out and let your teacher know, email, text. You can do Zooms, whatever you want to do. If you want to do your own Zoom, any of those things will work. So for today, we're going to continue on with what we did yesterday. Yesterday, we looked at the background essay and we got some background information on who Hammurabi is and a little bit about ancient Mesopotamia. And today, we're going to actually start looking through the documents. So you're going to continue with that packet we started yesterday. So I'm going to share a screen with my active. Oh, you know what I should do? Close my email because that pops up when I'm working. Close window. All right. So this is what you worked on yesterday. So today, I guess we don't need to see me. I guess I can minimize that. We don't need to see me. Okay. So today we are going to first start with this page. And this is just making sure we understand the question and we know what is being asked of us in this mini DBQ. So question number 1 says, what is the analytical question asked by this DBQ? So what is it asking us to answer? So I'm going to do this the best I can. It's really hard to annotate when I am not on my whiteboard. So the question it's asking is Hammurabi's code. Was it just? And we talked about this yesterday. If any of the words in here that need to be defined, meaning we're not exactly sure, and I would say the one word we need to make sure we understand is just. And we talked about that's another word meaning fair. So it's like a fancy word. You can be like, mother, I don't believe your decision to ground me was just. I should be like, what are you talking about? And be like, just using fancy words, mother. And then the third one is, how could you rewrite this in your own words? So you can rewrite it any way you want. An example would be, was Hammurabi's code fair? That could be one way we write it. And then our buckets. We're going to be doing our buckets just like we did with kind of Spirit Caveman and Ötzi. We have 3 buckets here. We're only going to need 1. So 1 bucket you can cross out. We do not need that bucket. Poo-poo on you bucket. We're only going to use this bucket and this bucket. And the buckets is where we're going to keep track of our evidence. So in this bucket, we're going to put any pieces of evidence that help support the idea that, actually I'm not going to put fair highlight, that his laws were just. And then in this bucket, this is where we're going to put any evidence that supports that his laws were not just. It'll help us keep track. So then when we're done at the end, we can just go to our bucket and decide which one we want to work with. All right, so next step is we are going to be looking at document A, which is our very, very first document. And I do want to go through quite a bit of this. So at first, we're going to start out with our up and R triple R. So I'm going to put that up here, UPNR-RRR. So we're going to start with the underlining or highlighting the title or any headers. So when we do document, the underlining is a little different, or highlighting. So we're going to document or highlight that it's document A. We're going to document where the source is. The source meaning where they got their information from. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. And it gives us a date. Also, here's a note. It's giving us a little, and again, so bad at this when I'm not on my whiteboard, giving us some background information about the source. And then we do have a little extra right here, but we'll talk about, this is just details of the carving. P is predict. We don't necessarily have to predict on these documents because we know they're all going to be laws written by Hammurabi. So we don't necessarily have to predict on this one. Number the paragraphs. I do want us to do this. So this is going to be 1, This is going to be 2. I wonder if I can use my finger. Can I go 3? Oh, not bad. And then 4. It's not great, but it's not horrible. So those are going to be our 4 paragraphs. And then any extras. That dog, I swear. KK, can you get Puppy, please? Just shut the laundry room. Okay, so one thing I want to talk about is starting right here where it says 1754. Well, let's read it. The source is a stone stele of Hammurabi's code from the ancient artifacts collection of the Louvre Museum in Paris, France. First off, Louvre Museum is a very, very fancy museum in Paris, which I'm guessing is not open right now because of COVID. Poo-poo on COVID. Actually, I'm pretty sure because Paris is like in a lockdown. But right here, circa 1754 BCE. So this right here is telling us from when this source was created. So this source was created in 1754 BCE, which we know is the time of Hammurabi. So that means that this source is a primary source, meaning that it came from the time period. Primary sources, remember we talked about, are gonna be more accurate because they came from the actual time of the event. And remember, if I write it on mine, you write it on yours. Second, the note. The stele, which is carved from black diorite, and diorite is like a type of stone. So I'm just gonna make a little note. Diorite is just a type of stone. So I'm gonna put that right there. It's a type of stone. I don't know, can you see that? Oh, stone, sorry. But so these steles, he did multiple ones. We've only found a few, but he did multiple ones all throughout his kingdom. Because if you remember yesterday, his kingdom was like over 400 miles from top to bottom. So he had them in different places all along. They weighed 4 tons. I want to say an elephant weighs 2 tons. So 1 stone weighed the same as 2 elephants. That would be a lot. And this picture, it says, only shows the top third of it. So this thing was 8 feet tall. So that is pretty tall. All right, so I'm gonna go through and read it, and then we're gonna work on answering the questions. All right, so paragraph 1 says, the carving at the top of the stele shows Hammurabi standing before Shamash, the god of justice, who is seated on his throne. Shamash is instructing Hammurabi in the law. Okay, sounds reasonable. Okay, Caleb, Puppy in, please. Okay. Paragraph 2. Below the 2 figures is the prologue. So when we talk about a prologue, we're talking about, so I'm going to circle it. A prologue is basically like the beginning or introduction. So if we talk, a prologue is like the intro. No, it's fine. So in this introduction of the stele, Hammurabi lists the names of the gods, saying that they have given him the right to rule, how very important he is. The prologue, like the rest of the code, is written in wedge-shaped cuneiform letters that have been carved into the stone. Okay. Paragraph 3. Below the prologue, closer to the base, are the 282 laws organized by theme. So kind of grouped up. They have family laws together, agriculture, which has to do with farming, which we know is very important back then, and theft, and then professional standards. There are a total of 3,500 lines of writing covering both sides of the stele. So think about this. Imagine if you had to just write 282 laws, but then you don't have to write it, you have to carve it, which is going to take a lot more time and it's going to be a lot harder into stone. That would be some craziness. So when you guys are complaining when you have to do a page of notes, it could be worse. You could be doing 3,500 lines carved into stone. And then paragraph 4 is following the laws in the epilogue. So when we talk about the epilogue is basically the ending. So when we talk about the epilogue, again, the epilogue is basically the end. So it says, following the laws is an epilogue in which Hammurabi states how the law should be carried out. So he's like, okay, people. God of Shamash, you know him, God of justice. He has told me the laws and he has told me what to do. And then the second part, he's listing all the laws. And in the third part, the epilogue, he's like, all right, I've given you the laws. This is how you follow them. So he's being very clear on what is expected of the people of his civilization. All right, so let's go to question number 1, is what kind of writing was used to inscribe the code on the stele? So if we look back in paragraph 2, it tells us right here, it was written in wedge-shaped cuneiform letters. So for number 1, we're just gonna put wedge-shaped cuneiform letters. And when you send me this as your work, you not only need to send me the questions, but you also need to send me the front where you have annotated everything that I've annotated. The fact that it's all of this basically should be what you send me. Everything that I have annotated here, you need to also annotate and send me a picture. All right. Oh, and that was in paragraph 2. Did we put that? Nope. Remember, we have to cite where we got our information from. Okay, so that was in paragraph 2. All right, number 2 said the code is divided into what 3 parts? So we talked about that. We have the prologue, which is like the beginning. And that was in paragraph 2. We have the middle part, which is the laws. And that was in paragraph 3. And then the last part is the epilogue, which is like the ending. And that was in paragraph 4. So far, so good. Number 3, from where or whom does Hammurabi get the law? So if we look back, we remember right in paragraph 1, he tells us that Shamash, the god of justice, is who gave him these laws. So go back to number 3, we're going to put Shamash, god of justice. We got that from paragraph 1. All right, these are the ones that are going to be a little tricky, but that's why we're going to go through them together. So number 4 says, is there any evidence in the documents that can be used to argue that Hammurabi's code was just? So this one's kind of hard because we don't really know what the laws are at this point. We haven't really gotten anything, but he is telling us he got us from the god of justice. So, I mean, you would think the god of justice was kind of an authority on what is fair. So you could say, yes, there is evidence that the laws came from the god of justice. So, you know, that could be it. Number 5, are there any evidence in this document that can be used that Hammurabi was not just? Not really. However, it makes you wonder, this guy says a god is talking to him. So I'm wondering, did the god really talk to Hammurabi? Or did Hammurabi just make these up and then said, oh yeah, Shamash got them to me. Shamash, he like made a little note on his like Mesopotamia iPad. And then they're like, where'd you get those laws? And he's like, not my iPad. It was, KK. It was totally, Lily, get Poppy, please. The god of justice. Totally didn't make these up. All right, okay. All right, let's go to document B. Document B, and if you are still writing these down, the good thing is just pause. All right, just pause, write it down, make sure you have all the annotating done here. It's fine. And here, and then pause it. And when you're ready, let's go on to document B. So document B, we're gonna start off with our UPNR, UPNR, triple R. So we're gonna underline or highlight, let's use a different color. Let's use yellow. We're gonna highlight that it is document B. We're gonna highlight the source. So it tells us this is from the actual epilogue. And remember, epilogue is ending of, let me go to my document A, of Hammurabi's code, circa 1954. So P, remember I said you don't have to really predict. Number the paragraphs. We're going to have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you want to remind yourself, an epilogue is like the end. This is really hard writing. Sorry, that's hard to read. This is the end. Sorry, that's really bad. All right, and then read any extras. So there's no extras on this one. However, I do want us to decide, is this a primary or secondary? Primary meaning, did it come from the actual time period during the time of Hammurabi, or was it written after? And since it is the same as the last one, we know this is a primary source, meaning it came from the time of Hammurabi. All right, so we're gonna go through and read. And this one I have more annotated than I did on the last one because there is quite a few words that could be tricky. So follow along as I make notes. Please make notes on your paper. All right, Hammurabi, the protecting king am I. So right away he's already like, dude, I'm the king, but I'm protecting. That the strong might not injure the weak in order to protect the widows and orphans. So I want to stop and talk about this. A widow, I'm sure you know this, a widow is someone whose husband had died. So she may be someone who needs protection. Husband died. And then, that dog, I'm gonna murder him. And then an orphan is someone who has no parents. So again, people who might need protecting, who may not necessarily have anyone who can protect them. Sorry. All right. So widow, someone whose husband has died, and an orphan is someone who has no parents. I set up these, my precious words, written upon my memorial stone, so his stele, before the image of me as the king of righteousness. So he's like, dude, do not question this because I am the king of righteousness, and righteousness is another word for fairness. So he's the king of fairness, all right? In case you were doubting him, do not doubt him. He is the king of fairness. All right, paragraph 2. By the command of Shamash, the great God and judge of heaven and earth, let righteousness go forth in the land. So righteousness is kind of justice. So when you're talking about righteousness, you're talking about justice. All right, so we're gonna make my little note. This is much easier to do on my whiteboard. So again, he is telling you many times, hey, I'm Hammurabi, the protecting king. Hey, I'm Hammurabi, I'm the king of righteousness. Hey, I'm Hammurabi, let there be justice. So he's repeating this many, many, many times, so you are very aware of who he is and what he is representing. Let no destruction befall my monument. Do not vandalize my monument. I will find you. Let my name be ever repeated. So we talk about him 20 years from now, 100 years from now, 50 years from now, 5,000 years. He wants his name remembered and repeated. Let the oppressed, people who are oppressed would be people who are having unfair treatment. So if you're oppressed, if you're having unfair treatment, that he is talking about this for you. Who has a case at law, come and stand before this, my image, as king of righteousness. Again, telling you, I'm the king of fairness. Let him read the inscription and understand my precious words. So let no destruction, like don't touch my stuff, man. I want to make a little note for that. Don't ruin, like do not ruin this. I will find you. All right, paragraph 3. In future time, through all coming generations, let the king who may be in the land observe the words of righteousness, which I have written on my monument. Let him not alter the law of the land which I have given. So basically, he's kind of saying, hey, future leaders, don't change my laws, okay? You don't get to change them. I'm the God of righteousness. I'm the God of fairness. I was given this information from Shamash. So basically, don't, future leaders, future kings, no changing. This is it. So basically, not only does Hammurabi think these should be the laws for Mesopotamia during his time, he also thinks these should be the laws for as long as Mesopotamia is around. So no changing. Could you imagine if we wrote laws and then never allowed to change them? For example, women were not allowed to have the right to vote, and that was obviously changed. All right, paragraph 4. If the ruler does not esteem my words, if he doesn't want to listen to what I'm saying, if he destroys the law which I have given, here's where he gets crunk. May the great gods of heaven and earth inflict a curse. And not just a curse on him, a curse upon his family, his land, his warriors, his subjects, and his troops. And his subjects would be the citizens of the land. So they didn't even do anything, but if the king decides to change a law, apparently they're cursed too. Everyone's cursed. Cursed for you, cursed for me, cursed for everybody. It's kind of hardcore, like not so great. All right, let's look at our questions. Number 1, according to Hammurabi, what was his purpose for having written these laws? So if we look back at paragraph 1, he wrote the laws so the strong might not injure the weak in order to protect the widows and orphans. So why did he write this? He wrote it so strong can't injure the weak, to protect widows and orphans. And this was in, put it right here. Come on. We'll put it over here so you can see it. Okay, this was in, actually, no, we'll just put it at the end right here. This was in paragraph 1. I hope you guys can see this. All right, number 2, who commanded Shamash to create the monument? We already know this, but make sure you actually get it from the text. It tells you right here, paragraph 2, by the command of Shamash, the great God and judge of heaven and earth. So for number 2, we're gonna put Shamash, great God and judge of heaven and earth. And then that was in paragraph 2. All right, number 3, what does Hammurabi threaten will happen to any future Babylonian king who does not follow these laws? It's pretty crunk. We saw that, we just talked about that. That was in paragraph 4. He's like major hardcore cursing. It's almost like, remember we watched Holes where Madame Zeroni cursed Stanley Yulnat's family and just kept like forever and ever. Basically he's basically cursing everyone in Mesopotamia. I mean, really, there's gonna be a curse on, actually, you know, it's interesting though, there's not actually gonna be a curse on the king, just his family, his land, although his land, that would not be good, his land, his warriors. So I guess if he is cursing everyone else, he's kind of cursing the king because king's gonna be in trouble. His subjects and his troops. So he's cursing a lot. He's basically cursing everything in the land. And that was in paragraph 4. Oh, 404, sorry. All right. Oh, yay, more COVID news. All right. How can you use this document to argue that Hammurabi's code was just? Well, he talks about how he's using the laws to protect ordinary people, protect people who might need protecting. So he's using laws to protect people who might need protecting. And that was in, well, you don't have to put a paragraph on that one. And then how can you use this to say he's not just? Well, he doesn't really seem that great. Doesn't seem that great when he is threatening people. That seems a little hardcore. He's like, hey, I want to protect all of you, but if you don't listen to my word, I'm going to curse everybody you know. It's a little crunk. All right, and again, if you need to write this down, hit the pause, write it all down, and then we're going to move on to our last document today, which is document C. So again, we're going to start out with UPNR-AAA. So we're going to start off by, let's do a different color. Let's do blue. We're going to highlight document C. The source tells us it's from actual Hammurabi's code, and it gives us a little note. So there are 282 laws in Hammurabi's code. The numbers below refer to their order on the stele. We don't have to predict. Number the paragraphs. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to be reading about 4 different laws. And then no extras, but I do want to ask you, if this came from 1754 BCE, which means it came from the time period, is this going to be primary or secondary? That's right, primary. Very good, boys and girls. I was just thinking about, they used to do that on Blue's Clues and Mickey Mouse. It's a primary source. It came from the actual time period. All right, so I'm going to read through this. This one actually has a lot of notes as, oh wait, no, yeah, kind of some notes. All right, so we're going to start with Law 129, which says, if a married lady is caught in adultery, cheating, with another man, they shall bind them and cast them into the water. So bind them basically means they're going to tie them up, throw them into the water, which means they will most likely drown. So basically the punishment for adultery or for cheating is death. It's a little crunk, huh? All right, Law 148. If a man has married a wife and a disease has seized her. So if you marry someone, or if a guy marries a girl and he gets a disease, and he's like, I don't really like this one anymore, I want to get a second wife, he can marry a second wife, but he shall not divorce the wife whom the disease has seized. So he can't divorce his first wife. And she shall dwell means like live, in the house they have built together, and he shall maintain her as long as she lives. So basically maintain means he has to take care of her. So that is taken care of. So before this, if a wife got sick, her husband could just kick her out and be like, deuces, peace out. And you know, she may, if she had no one else to take care of her, could just like die in the streets. Now Hammurabi's saying, dude, if you get a wife, she gets sick, you can get another wife. That's totally fine. However, you still have to take care of your first wife as long as she lives. So until she passes away, the first husband has to take care of her. Seems like he is protecting the weak. All right, number 3, Law 168. If a man has determined to disinherit his son, and we talk about disinherit, that means like leave him no money. So when the dad dies, he doesn't want to leave any of his money to the son. So no money for son. And has declared before the judge. So he's like, judge, I have cut off my son. I am giving him no money when I die. The judge shall inquire into the son's past. So he's going to say, why are you doing this? And if the son has not committed a grave misdemeanor, so he basically hasn't done anything wrong. So if he hasn't really done anything wrong, the father can't disinherit his son. So we don't have that today. You can leave your money to whomever, wherever you want, but Hammurabi made a law protecting that if your dad's just kind of a jerk and he wants to leave you no money just because, if you haven't done anything wrong, it won't be allowed. That the father will have to leave his inheritance to his son. All right, and then Law 195. If a father has struck, if a son has struck his father, his hand shall be cut off. So if you hit your dad, hands, goodbye, goodbye, not happening anymore. So think about it, no hands for hitting your parent. So that was a pretty hardcore punishment for hitting your parent. Imagine if you're a 2-year-old and you hit your parent. Cuckoo, there goes the hand. All right, let's look at the questions. Number 1, in Law 129, what does it mean to bind them and cast them into the water? So we talked about this and we made notes right here. Basically means to tie them up and drown them. So law 129 basically means tie them up, throw them into the water. They drown. It's hardcore. That was in paragraph 1. It's pretty hardcore stuff. In law 168, what does it mean to disinherit a son? Again, we talked about it. Leave no money for your son. Leave no money for your son. And that was in paragraph 3. All right, number 3. 2 crimes in this document result in physical punishment. Physical mean like hitting, things like that. What are those crimes, and why might Hammurabi argue that the punishments were just? So it does seem a little hardcore. So what are the 2 crimes? The 2 crimes is cheating, and which is adultery, and you drown. You're basically drowned. And hitting father. Let's put striking, hitting's fine. And what happens is chop off hands. So these may seem hardcore, which they do. I mean, let's be honest, they seem hardcore to today. But it was probably harder to have law and justice back then. And if you had people who are going to cheat or people who are going to hit their parents, you could argue that those people would not be good citizens. So in order to have these consequences, it would, number 1, make others be like, whoa, hey, no, not going to do that because I don't want that punishment. And so they're going to be better citizens. So Hammurabi could argue that this made better citizens. Like they're going to be better because they don't want this stuff happening. Paragraph 4, Hammurabi said his code was meant to protect the weak. Is there any evidence in this document that the code did so? So I would say yes. There's 2 laws that kind of talk about protecting the weak. First, we have Law 148. If we look back, Law 148 talks about it will protect a sick wife. Her husband cannot just throw her in the street. And then also Law 168 down here protects a son from his father. So Law 148, which protects a sick wife, and that was in paragraph 1. And then Law 168, which protects the son, and that was in paragraph 4. So, I mean, he is, it looks like, trying to protect people that's paragraph 3, who may need protecting, who could possibly be oppressed. So, overall, are these laws regarding family just? This is one I would like you to answer on your own because it's an opinion. You can either go two ways. Yes, and it is a tough question. So some you could say these seem crazy harsh. Like if you get upset and hit your dad, and maybe it was a mistake, is it a mistake where you should lose your hands, which would impact the rest of your life? But we can also argue that it would make them better citizens. However, the laws did protect people who may need protecting, sons from their fathers, wives from their husbands. So this is going to be your opinion. You're going to say, yes, they seem just. And remember, just seems fair. They seem just because blah, 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 blah. Or nope, dude, sorry. These family laws are not just. They're totally unfair. And this is why. So you need to tell me what you think and why. It doesn't have to be a paragraph, but it needs to be a sentence or 2 for you to explain what you think and why you think that. So these are all we're going to be working on today, documents A, B, and C. When you are done, you can either wait and show me them tomorrow on the Zoom, which is Thursday, or you can send me pictures. Your pictures, when you send them to me, should be the whole page. So I can see that you did the annotating just like I did, and you answered the questions and put the paragraphs where you found the answers. Again, if you have any questions or comments or you're confused, reach out, text, email. If you want to do a one-on-one Zoom and we can go through it together, I'm willing to do any of those things. The only thing I have tomorrow is 7:30 Zoom. The rest of the day I'll just be working on my computer, working on tomorrow's lesson, things like that. So I have time tomorrow. I mean, I have time every day, but especially tomorrow since I don't have any Zooms. So if you need any help. All right, I love you. I miss you. Tell everyone I'm your favorite, even if I have COVID. Make good choices, be good people, and I will see you on Zoom.